This one kind of came out of nowhere. I believe it was yesterday that this dropped. Maybe it was this morning. This morning felt like forever ago. But Barry Jenkins is a filmmaker that I really love and admire. He makes excellent work, director of films such as Moonlight, If Beale Street Could Talk, if you've never seen that movie. Wow. And he also just directed the most recent Mufasa the Lion King, which was way better than it had any right to be. Despite some of its flaws, it was way better than it should have been. Well, we have details about Barry Jenkins' next film. He has cast Glenn Powell in a lead role, and this is really exciting. And the film itself, we have details on. It's going to be an adaptation of Matt Aldrich's upcoming novel, The Natural Order, and it'll be distributed by Universal. This is interesting. So, Glenn Powell obviously is one of the few true movie stars that we have at the moment. And Barry Jenkins, one of the best filmmakers working today. I don't think there's any doubt to that. Even some scripts he's written that he didn't direct, like he recently wrote The Fire Inside, and I quite like that movie as well. I think this is a match made in heaven for both of these creators. One, in that, yes, Barry Jenkins did just get a bunch of Disney money from Mufasa, but he's also been slowly working his way, and with Mufasa obviously got there, of becoming not only this great indie auteur filmmaker, but also a big public cash flow filmmaker. Going the route of different filmmakers like Nolan, Villeneuve, Jordan Peele. You could tell Barry Jenkins was making moves to kind of try to get that to happen. And I think casting somebody like Glenn Powell, excellent fucking move. Glenn Powell's career has been on an insane hot streak. He was in Twisters, he was in Hitman, which he was fantastic in. It should have come out in theaters. And he was really great in Anyone But You, even though that movie was kind of fine. But he's also going to be in the upcoming remake of The Running Man, directed by Edgar Wright. His career is going crazy. And I think this is really awesome to see, and I think these two working together could create something really fucking good that I'd really love to see. And I think it's a match made in heaven in that, Glenn Powell's career is going all over the place, from big blockbuster to Netflix film, to now he's with Barry Jenkins, this kind of indie film-loving filmmaker, kind of like Richard Linklater was for Hitman. Glenn Powell's a smart guy. Barry Jenkins is a smart guy. This is an excellent move. And I'm going to throw it over to you before I start getting in the habit of repeating myself. So, Nicholas, what are your thoughts on Glenn Powell and Barry Jenkins kind of teaming up to make this adaptation of this novel?
Well. For starters, right? I think it's interesting too because this is very similar to, I think it was Eruption, the James Patterson
Yeah.
novel that caused a bidding war before the movie was even released.
The book.
Sorry, before the book was even released. It's so interesting to me that, how does word get out about that, right? Do they send the book to people and it starts creating buzz?
Yeah, usually they have a transcript that it leaks or it gets around to different agents, and it's start
So
getting
so it's
the
interesting
dollars.
that before this movie or before this book, sorry, has even been released, that Barry Jenkins and Glenn Powell are already attached to star in it. I mean, talk about a marketing push for your book. That makes me want to go read it,
Mm-hmm.
As for Barry Jenkins, it's great to see him, I don't, I haven't seen Mufasa. I've seen him talk about Mufasa a lot on the Dolby intro at AMC, which unfortunately they recently changed. But, I saw Mufasa as, you know what, man, get your bag. Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Go for it. And he even then, once that check cleared, he was like, I'm never doing that again. So it's great to see him going back to some sort of roots on that. And as for Glenn Powell, one of the biggest movie stars working right now, and if you're looking at his agency, whoever they are, I think it's CAA.
Yeah.
Impeccable work. I mean, if you're looking at the talent, not just the movies you name, but look at the directors, right? Top Gun Maverick, Joseph Kosinski. You have Hitman, Richard Linklater. You have Twisters, Lee Isaac Chung, who was nominated for directing for a movie that wasn't nominated for Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
You have him coming up in The Running Man, which is directed by Edgar Wright, So he is attracting this level of directors that want him in the movie, and the movies are attracting this level of talent, and I think he has been someone that has consistently put out very solid results. Same for all the directors that he's attaching himself with. And it does not shock me. I think he also has a J.J. Abrams movie coming up on his docket as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, and he's got a series coming out too.
It's like we always sort of say, right? It's never a bad idea to add talent. Glenn Powell is one of the biggest talents, and him attaching himself to these great directors, I think, is just a positive all around.
I agree. And going back to kind of the Mufasa Barry Jenkins thing,
Mhm.
I think obviously, yes, he got his bag money wise. And yes, I'm sure there was something about the story that attracted him to make it. But more importantly, it was probably a hell of a learning experience. Like, from somebody who went from Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk to Mufasa, he's probably learned so much more about big budget studio filmmaking because now he's making a movie that's based on a sci-fi novel. So whatever lessons he's learned from the big studio space, he's going to take it back to a little bit of a smaller scale, I assume, and make something better with those new skills that he's learned. Which that excites me. Like I want to see, like, all right, what did you take away from Mufasa, and how are you going to blow our minds with it? Like, I'm really excited to kind of see that.
Well, I always like to see that, right? And I like the progression of it, right? Because if you look at someone like a John Watts, right? His first movie that got big was Cop Car, which was, I think it had a cast of about 17 people and was made for less than $1 million. And then he got Homecoming, Spider-Man
Mm-hmm.
Homecoming. And then he really just focused down on that Spider-Man trilogy. And I think even if you just watch the trilogy as a whole, you're watching a director improve, I think, personally, from a directing standpoint, each film.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm very excited for what that would bring to Barry Jenkins. Maybe him having an IP that's not bogged down by Disney's bureaucratic red tape, what have you. And him being able to, like, maybe he had this on his radar for a while and was like, let me go see how CGI works real quick, and we'll knock that out and we'll be good to go.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And guys, what do you think about Barry Jenkins and Glenn Powell joining forces on a new film? This is one of the most exciting movie news stories we've gotten in a while. This is awesome. Let us know in the comments below as we move on to our next story. And Nicholas,